We're the team behind Found in the Fjords, a VR experience about life below water. I'm Louise, the team lead.
I'm Tiff. I'm in charge of storytelling.
I'm Aya, and I'll be helping out with tech and sound.
When I got an opportunity to participate in an all-women expedition to the Norwegian fjords to study the behavior of orca during the herring run, I really saw this as an opportunity to build something that really aligned to one of those sustainable development goals and bring a greater awareness to a relatively unknown part of the ocean. Our game is really about the journey of a young orca named Nora as she experiences her first migration to the fjords of Arctic Norway in the winter to follow the herring run, and she's learning from her mother and the rest of the family pod how to survive and thrive in what is a changing ocean. For each of the creature models, each of the whales and things, they are actually designed based on pictures of the actual type of orca and humpback and jellyfish that we saw. And then the terrain is actually built using digital elevation models from the Norwegian Geological Survey. The land that you see when you are in this experience are actually places in Norway's fjords where we visited, and they have meaning to us. They use GPS and digital data that is then has been transferred into Blender and used to make three-dimensional meshes that we then imported into Unity. I was also lucky enough to be able to bring on the expedition a 360-degree camera, and so by using those 360 videos, we're kind of gradually preparing you to take this experience out of the headset. So you can experience what we felt standing on that vessel, experiencing this place.
So we did get a lot of decent audio as well through the GoPros and other equipment that we used. And that's been a sort of reference point for a lot of the sounds used in the game. So rather than have the actual sound just as it is, to have a more cohesive and slightly stylized take, what I've done is I've taken the sound and then replicated it with a synthesizer. Beyond the sound effects, I did want to have a little bit of a background music that does appear in parts of the game, and I really kind of thought about just sort of that lulling feeling of being in the water. You are being watched and protected as you're kind of exploring around in the game.
So you start off as Nora, and you learn a little bit about yourself, and you get an orientation as an orca, how to move around the space, what it's like, and you start to learn from the other characters and a comb jelly, who is kind of the game guide throughout, about the ecosystem, about what has changed, as well as these stories from the point of view of the orca, kind of communicating to them how to live. So you learn how to do the very fascinating and unique carousel feeding of these orca, where they round up these herring and eat them, and how things have changed over time. What happens when humans come into the world, both as tourists coming to visit and study you, and also the industrial side of things with fishing, and the impacts of fishing and industry, and more recently ecotourism, and how they play into these complex ideas and competing interests when we look at sustainable management. And in many ways, we're trying to tell a realistic but also optimistic story here, as we see some of the positive impacts that have happened since, but at the same time, what the potential impacts of kind of changing human activities on the area.
The game ends with this awesome body swap sequence where you're Nora, the orca, and you encounter a human snorkeler, and then all of a sudden you've swapped. This empathic connection helps us remember that we inhibit two pods at the same time. You know, we can be both orca and human in our experience of the world and in all the decisions that we're making. You become a human and you go back to your Zodiac and back to the research ship, where you get the chance to make a choice about how to best conserve your ocean locally and globally. These calls to action are a way to transform your experience within our game, within Found in the Fjords, to our everyday life, like eating sustainable fish, reducing your plastic consumption, and knowing and reducing your carbon footprint. In reality, our everyday choices do impact not just us as a species, but also all the species of the planet. The takeaway we're trying to have our players leave our game with is that any choice that you make as a human can also have a very positive impact on orca and other life underwater, as long as we're keeping them in mind. And so the whole game is built around creating that empathic kind of connection between the different species and between all species that inhabit the waters and the planet.